Morning. We are going to switch gears a little bit. We were talking about fun events that are going on in Berkeley County at the old Santee Recreation Area up there, and now we're going to switch gears and talk about Black History Month, which we are in the midst of right now, and there are many events going on. The Avery Research Center is very active in getting the word out about why this is so important and what it's all about, and the fact that if you are black or white or Hispanic or whatever, this is a part of your history and something that we all need to know more about. And joining me this morning is someone who knows an awful lot more about it than I do. This is Damon Fordham, a graduate intern at Avery Research Center. Thank you so much for being here.
Pleasure being here, Nina.
For folks who don't know much about the Avery Research Center, first, give me a little background about what that's all about.
Okay. The Avery Research Center, it was originally the Avery Institute in Charleston. It was a black high school and junior college for teachers from 1868 to 1954. And in 1990, the alumni got together, and with some help from the state, it was transformed into a research center, a library/museum dealing about African Americans throughout the U.S., world, and low country history.
Okay, and they continue to do research and continue to do work and educating.
Correct. Say if you want to come in and research on various aspects of black history of the low country in particular, you could go into our research room, and and some of the staff will be able to help you with that. We have videotapes, old newspapers, archives, films, and the like to help people in their search for that particular knowledge. And during much of the year, we're open to tours, but presently we're closed for renovation.
Okay, yeah, that's right. That's going on right now.
Mm-hmm.
And as we are in the midst of Black History Month, as I said, you've been going around talking to schools and talking to people about what Black History Month is and why it's so important. And give me the quick and simple in layman's terms.
No problem, no problem. Black History Month, which was started by Dr. Carter G. Woodson in 1926, was founded with the purpose of not only educating African Americans about their history and their achievements, but also the larger community, because as you know, there's a misperception throughout the country among both blacks and whites about the nature of African Americans and about our contributions to the country. So it's basically done so that there will be respect of self among African Americans and respect from others among non-African Americans.
And when you go into the schools, what types of questions do the kids ask you most? Do they want to know, well, what thing did a black person invent, or what do they ask?
I get a lot of that. This morning I spoke earlier I spoke with Brentwood in middle school, and they asked a lot of questions about slavery, a lot about inventors, but there's a whole lot more to it than that. You're dealing with the whole story of the human condition, as you do with every other ethnic or racial group in this country, and I'm always quick to point that out.
And by that you mean?
By that I mean that in the black history, just as well as you have with other ethnic groups, you have stories of pain and suffering, but you also have tales of triumph over tragedy. And the tales of triumph over tragedy is also what I like to stress with young people, to encourage them to overcome their obstacles.
Because I think a lot of people they see the obstacles in their lives and they say, okay, well, that was then. Times are different now. It's different now. It's harder on me, you know. And I think kids need to know that there's always been hardships in life. And you kind of point them in that direction and say, yeah. Learn from your forefathers. That's
right, because we have to understand that the hardships we face today are based on hardships that happened a very long time ago, and it's understanding those hardships to help us overcome the hardships of today.
And now, when you go into these schools, what you said, you know, the Brentwood Middle School, you said, are you mostly in middle schools, or are you in high schools? Or?
Well, basically wherever I'm asked, because for 4 years I was a newspaper columnist with a paper called the Coastal Times. I occasionally write for the Chronicle, and I've been mentioned in the Post-Courier on several occasions. We did a documentary called Where Do We Go From Here a few months ago. And because of things like that, people seek people who are knowledgeable on such subjects so that they can speak into the various schools, especially during February. But this should be a year-long process where people understand not only our culture, but the various cultures that make up America in general.
When you do go into the schools and say a white student says, why is this important to me? Why should I care? These aren't my grandparents, this isn't my history. What do you tell them?
Well, I tell them the same thing that the Jewish people, when people ask them why do they study about Hitler and their Holocaust in Germany, it's for the same reason. So for one thing, society wouldn't repeat the mistakes of the past. And secondly, to understand that every group in this country has made a contribution to this country, and the more that people understand that, the more there will be a general respect across the board for each other.
And, you know, we're dealing with that issue of respect and that issue of give and take right now with the Confederate flag issue. The entire nation is watching.
Correct.
I'm sure that the kids ask you about that in the schools, and I'm sure that is playing a part in this year's Black History Month because it is so forefront in the news right now.
They do. As a matter of fact, I was asked that just this morning by a child who was a few mornings ago by a child who was just 12 years old about why is there such a controversy over this, and I explained to them the different views that the people have on the subject.
And it's one of those things that's hard to explain to a kid.
Not really, if you're really familiar with it and know how to break things down to young children with experience with children, it can be done very easily.
And they understood okay?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. As we do have the entire nation looking at us with that issue, and we do have a Black History Month right now, and we have you in the schools speaking about this, do you think that there are strides being made? Do you think we're moving in the right direction as far as an understanding in our state? Because the rest of the country is looking at our state right now and going, man, they are living in another time.
Well, we are moving into the direction. We're not there yet, but I do believe that there are enough progressive people in the state that are trying to get a lot of people on the outside to understand what's going on here, and so with the help of a lot of people on the outside, it'll help the people who are on the inside, who are not yet progressive in their views, slowly understand, because that's what happened during the days of segregation. It happened with the women at the Citadel issue. It happened with the labor issue, and that's generally how you have to get things done in a state like South Carolina.
At the end of this month, over in Columbia, the Citizen Summit on Race Relations is coming up at the end of this month, and a lot of people will be looking to that to see what types of views and attitudes people have. Do you see, while you're in the schools and while you're talking to these kids, do you see our future? I mean, the kids that you're talking to in the schools are the ones that are going to be making the decisions, and they're the ones that are going to have the attitudes. Do you think the attitude's going to change? Do you think it's working?
As long as people who are progressive speak with the young people and make an impression on them to understand these type of things, and the young people keep open minds about this subject, I think that there is that possibility for change.
We all like to hope so anyway.
Oh, yes.
We only have about a minute or so left. The Avery Research Center is doing a lot of work, obviously, with Black History Month. But what other things should people know about the Avery Research Center if they've never gone down there and taken advantage of that building?
Well, one thing that we try to impress upon people is the importance of saving things that are important to your history, such as yearbooks, diaries, scrapbooks and things of that sort, because it may not seem that important to you, but someday someone is going to use that for historical research, and in that way you become a part of history. So we encourage people to donate those things to us, if not, save them and explain them to their children for future generations.
Dig around in the old attic, see what's up there,
too. That's correct. Because
right.
One man's trash is another man's treasure.
That's the truth. Coming from somebody who does a lot of garage sailing, I believe in that. Well, thank you so much for being here.
You're very welcome.
I appreciate you being here, and I appreciate all the work you're doing in the schools. For those of you who would like to know more, take advantage of the Avery Research Center. All you have to do is you can get online, you can find them, you can also call the Visitor Center downtown, and they'll tell you exactly how to get there and the information that you need to know about that. And it is a resource that was available to all of us here in the Low Country. We should take advantage of it. Stick around. When we come back, we're going to switch gears again, talk about Southeastern Wildlife Expo. It's coming up, and we'll be back.
There's a big lie about the black man allegedly who abducted her 2 children and then drove off. It was all a lie. That's coming up next.
Thanks a lot, Debbie and Bill. When Susan Smith described in detail a black man as the person who kidnapped her 2 little boys, the country started looking at every black man to see if he fit that description. When Smith confessed, she may have also admitted to stereotyping a young black man as a believable crime suspect. We asked some people around the Low Country today, was Smith's lie about a black man what that lie really means?
And I did not believe it anymore because she said he was black. If she would have said a white man took her car and took her children, I would have believed it just the same.
A lot of times black men are stereotyped and for crimes and things of that nature, and she figured it would probably be easier you know, to get the scene off of her and on to someone that they would really probably look for and believe, you know, that did that.
Anyone certainly could have, you know, done some kind of a crime like that. But I think it was just really just to try and get the focus away from her.
People have always, you know, assumed that that's what black men do.
So clearly from a random sampling, it shows that it depends on who you ask why Susan Smith came up with a black man as a crime suspect. Attorney Anthony O'Neill says it's because she thought that would be most believable.
Society nowadays wants to confine black people as to a poor criminal underclass, and she thought that, you know, that would sell.
All right, you heard what the people around the Low Country had to say. Damon Fordham is with the Avery Research Center, and he's also a local newspaper columnist. Thanks a lot for being here, Damon. And he has some ideas on why Susan Smith pointed to a black man as the person who carjacked her and kidnapped her children. What are your ideas about that?
Well, my idea is basically that she was aware of the fact that most black men in the society are often stereotyped as criminals. As Reverend Jesse Jackson correctly pointed out one time, that crime does seem to have a black face in this country in the minds of many people.
Now, does that necessarily mean that Susan Smith is racist and believes that black men are the perpetuators of crime? Or did she just do this because she thought that perhaps it was the most believable thing?
Personally, I think it was a combination of the two. I think that just as Mr. O'Neill had said earlier, that you know, basically part of it was due to the stereotype and that many people are ingrained in believing, but still on the other hand, I do think it was a good way for her, in her mind, to get the attention off herself.
What did that do to the people of this country and to the people of Union? You perhaps spoke with some of the people in Union shortly after this happened. What did they say about how her pointing the finger in a particular direction, how it affected their lives?
Well, I have talked to some people from Union, and they have said that it has caused race relations to deteriorate for a brief time up there. However, I understand that while things are on the mend now, it did lead to some wounds because many innocent black men were interrogated.
Now, a lot of children are reported missing. We see their faces on milk cartons and things like that in newspaper and various flyers. Why do you think that particular case got so much attention?
Well, I think it was a combination of the nature of the crime as Susan Smith reported it, plus the race angle, because let's face facts, most news shows are looking for angles that would cause people to watch, and the race issue is such in this country that people are drawn to that sort of thing.
What do you think that there are some things that people who perhaps still feel really wounded by what Susan Smith said, what can people do to perhaps get over that and better race relations so that people don't look at every black man, a description that you in fact fit, the one that she gave as the crime suspect, don't look at every black man as a perpetuator of crime?
The only solution to that sort of thing would be open dialogue between the two groups, and occasionally something like that can lead to hurt feelings because, let's face facts, the race relations in this country are not as good as many pretend that it is. So we need to come out and be open with each other as how we really feel.
All right. Thanks a lot, Damon. Some really good advice that we all can perhaps take heed to. We appreciate it. Damon Fordham with the Avery Research Center and a local newspaper columnist. Now, later tonight at 11, we're going to be talking about the issue of the death penalty and what that means. Is it because you don't have money, perhaps, that more people are put to death, or is it because of race? We'll find out more about that tonight at 11. A lot, Damon. Some really good advice that we all can perhaps take heed to. We appreciate it. Damon Fordham with the Avery Research Center and a local newspaper columnist. Now, later tonight at 11, we're going to be talking about the issue of the death penalty and what that means. Is it because you don't have money, perhaps, that more people are put to death, or is it because of race? We'll find out more about that tonight at 11. And coming up tonight, a little bit later on in the news hour in sports, Warren's going to tell us about Mickey Mantle after a liver transplant. Perhaps he has a change of heart, an all-star preview. Stick around for that.
Ending a 3-month search involving 120 applicants. The decision was made this afternoon by the Citadel Board of Visitors. Their choice becomes the first Air Force career officer to head. Batman the movie has finally made it to the theater, and it's being greeted by long lines at the box office. Both of tonight's showings at this Mount Pleasant theater were sellouts. Reaction to those who saw it was mixed.
What do you think of the movie? Yeah, That was fantastic. Okay. I like the part when the Joker starts yelling over town, throwing all the money in his picture.
I thought it was kind of a downer, to tell the truth.
Really?
Uh-huh.
Do you think it was more of a hype than anything else?
Well, sort of. I mean, some people might like it, but me, it was, you know.
Did you understand it?
Sort of. It was sort of complicated. Like, it'd be hard if you were younger to really understand it.
It was good. It was Batman. It just missed some of the old Batman stuff. Other than that, it was da-na-na-na-na-na-na.
Now, movie reviewer Arch Campbell is on hand for the Batman opening in Washington. He has a glimpse of the movie for us and a few thoughts on the film.
This summer's most hyped movie has finally landed at your neighborhood theater. Batman has come to town, and the question now is this thing worth all the hype? Well, the answer is yes. Forget about that old TV show. The new Batman movie is art. Intense, sinister, stylish, and scary. Michael Keaton plays Bruce Wayne as a man in pain. Traumatized as a youngster when his parents are murdered before his very eyes, he grows up to don a bat costume and invent bat gadgets to fight crime. His nemesis is Jack Nicholson. Thrown into a vat of toxic chemicals by Batman, Nicholson returns as the Joker, intent on revenge. He plots to kill the population by injecting deadly chemicals in cosmetics. Actually, both men want the same woman, fearless photojournalist Vicky Vale, played by Ken Basin. She's pretty good. So is Michael Keaton. And Jack Nicholson is great.
Hold on.
Wonderful toys. I think Batman is going to surprise you. It's occasionally slow. It's kind of like grand opera. It's intense. It's arty. The music is terrific, and the acting is great. I give it 3.5 stars out of 4 and a